Okay, good morning. This is Chris Robinson from AIS, and today we're going to be doing a walk around and familiarization on the John Deere 624K wheel loader. As you can see, this machine starting at the front is equipped with a hydraulic quick coupler, and we'll show the controls for that quick coupler when we get to the cab. Again, doing a walk around at ground level. Here on the left side of the machine, you can see the periodic maintenance chart. And while we're here, I also should mention you can see these grease lines coming to some of your lube points. This machine does have an automatic lube system. The reservoir is located right back here on the fender behind the left-hand door. The fact that this machine does have an automatic lube system does not relieve the operator from responsibility from doing a morning walk around to make sure that you don't see any broken lines, and that would be indicated by piles of grease on the ground somewhere, or if one of these lines gets plugged, you will also see it will pump out grease right at the reservoir, and that's an indication that you need to get with a technician and get that line corrected. Otherwise, you're not going to be getting grease to some key lubrication point. All your daily checks are at ground level on this left-hand side of the machine. The first one is here in the center pin area. You can see the hydraulic sight gauge is located right in the center here, and the hydraulic, the transmission, that's a transmission sight gauge, and the transmission fluid fill located right here. Going back to the left-hand side engine compartment, open up the fender. Here's a better look at that auto loop system as we're back in this area also. Open up this left-hand door. You can see on the back side of the hydraulic tank is the hydraulic sight gauge. You've got your windshield washer solvent bottle here. Your engine oil dipstick located right here in the engine oil fill. And it's a little hard to see from this angle, but if you look right up top to the right-hand side of the air filter, you can see the coolant overflow bottle. You need to make sure that you have coolant in that overflow bottle. Coming around to the back side, you've got your diesel fuel fill located right here. And in the rear, you have your hydraulic fan and your radiator and coolers. And those are accessed by opening both sides. I need to repeat that. Both sides, as you can see here, we've indicated as well. Both doors have to be opened before you open the rear fan, otherwise you're going to damage that right-hand door. So open both side doors, then you can access the fan. It opens out 90 degrees. This is a hydraulic fan on demand, so in the morning with the engines cool or cold, this won't run much because you don't need any cooling. But as you start to work the machine and the system heats up, this will start to run as required in order to keep everything cool. This is what John Deere calls their quad cool package, because you can get to all four sides. Actually, the top cover lifts up as well, so you can get to both sides of all your coolers for good clean out. On this side of the machine, you have another opening, which is basically just a tool or chain storage area. I open up the other side here. There are no daily checks on this side, but it's mainly for access for the technician. But if you can see on the starter, there is a red cap that there is a starting terminal there. You can actually go to that and to the frame if you were to have to jump start the machine and not fool with the batteries, which I'll show in a minute. Here under the right-hand side of the cab is the battery box and the master electrical disconnect switch. This can be utilized to turn off the electrical system either at night, or if you were to store this machine on at a job site, you can turn the power off, padlock this shut, and then nobody can activate the machine power system for unauthorized use. As we're doing this walk around, again, in the morning before you operate the machine, you should always do a walk around. Make sure that, as we talked about, you don't see any oil leaks on the ground. You don't see any grease coming out of any of these automatic grease lines. You want to make sure that there's no damage to any of the panels, anything like that, so you can get that taken care of before you take the machine out. We're going to go up into the cab now. Obviously, when you get on the machine, you've got good hand holds everywhere. You want to make sure you got good three-point contact getting on and off the machine. The cab itself, first thing we'll talk about is the foot pedals. On the left-hand side, you've got the big left brake pedal, and then you've got a small switch, foot switch, that is for your differential lock. What this does, if you're in slippery conditions, either ice or mud, on one side in the rear and it starts to spin, you can hold that down and it will lock both wheels together like a farm tractor, and hopefully the other side will have traction to pull you out of the sloppy conditions. That only operates while you're holding the switch down. Then you've got your left brake. The small little pedal here is your tilt for your steering column, and then on the right side you've got your right brake and your accelerator. On the steering wheel itself, you just have your horn and your turn signals, because the forward neutral reverse switch now is on the trigger on your loader control lever. Going over to this side of the cab, your loader control lever has 3 buttons on top. The bottom right button is your upshift when you're in manual transmission mode. The left lower button is your downshift button, and then the top raised button is your programmable. This can either be up, down, or down only, and that's programmed through the monitor, which we'll talk about in a minute. As I mentioned earlier, you have your forward neutral switch is a trigger on the front of the loader control lever. It's a 3-position switch. The center position is neutral, the top position is forward, and the bottom position is reverse. Here located on the side of the loader control lever is a switch that lets you manually keep track of up to 5 different types of products through a counter system that's in the monitor as well. The center button lets you select from the different counters. You can have up to 5 active at one time. The bottom, which is a picture of a truck, lets you keep track of either truck loads or bucket loads. And then the top picture of a bucket is for tip-off reweigh with the weigh scale system. Let me turn the machine off and we'll go through the starting process. The sealed switch module is located right here on the right hand side of the loader control lever. We're going to talk about this in more detail in a minute, but the first thing I want to show is, in order to start the machine, first you turn on the electrical system by pushing the green start button 1 time, and that will bring up your monitor. When your monitor comes on, across the top it's showing you the machine hours, 9.1 hours in this case. This is the counter system. You're in counter number 3, and you've manually kept track of 6 loads. It tells you that you're in neutral, but second gear has been selected and you're in manual transmission mode. I'll talk about that when we get to the push button panel. When you're running, it'll show you engine RPM and miles per hour. Your fuel gauge is located right here, and then you've got coolant, transmission, engine oil, and hydraulic oil temperatures shown here as well. Across the top of the monitor are your control buttons. You've got your info or hot button, your back arrow takes you to previous screen, your menu and select button, and then your up and down arrows to select up and down within each screen. The info button in this machine is used for the rear camera system, so if I push that, now you can see what the camera sees out the back end of the machine. This is programmable and how this operates, and right now it's set up to come on every time that the machine is put in reverse. But you can manually look at that by pushing the hot button, and push it again and that screen goes back to normal. If I want to bring up the menu, I push the menu button and that'll bring up my menu. You can see there are 7 main sections. First one is fault codes. The machine always is diagnosing itself, and if it detects a problem, it would throw an alert, a warning on the screen here, and it would direct you to go to this screen and select codes. In this case there aren't any in here, but if there were, you would select active and it would bring up a code number and a brief verbal description of the code. You know, depending on what the problem is, you may want to call back to your shop or call our shop. They can find out what this code is, because some of these things could just be an adjustment issue that can be taken care of at the end of the day, or it may be a problem that requires you to shut the machine down. But before you do that, I'll show you in a minute the diagnostics section here. You may be asked to check some temperatures, pressures, RPMs in some part of the system so we can do a better job or a good job in diagnosing exactly what the problem is, so we come out one time with the right part. If I want to go back to previous screen, now I can go down, select settings, and hit my select button again. These are various items on this machine that you can set. Now, reversing fan, you don't have this option, so any option that you don't have, if you try to select it, the machine will tell you that you don't have that option. You can change how long the courtesy lights stay on after the machine's turned off. The quick shift, that's the button that we talked about down here on the loader control lever. You can program that. Right now it's set to be down up. So if you're in first or if you're in second, you'll hit it, you'll go down to first, then hit it again, you'll go back up to second, over and over again, depending if you're in a repetitive operation. Job timer, you can have the machine keep track of a certain job, or you can have it act as a stopwatch if you want to check some cycle times. Ride control, again, if you don't have an option, the machine will tell you that you don't have that. Let's go down to more. Counters, that's how you set how many of the counters I talked about earlier are active. You can have the display units be in English or metric. You can have the language be in English, Spanish, or French. The camera mode is selected right now to come on every time you go into reverse, and I think that's probably the best way to leave it. Object detection is on. There is a small radar system in conjunction with the rear camera that detects objects. It's good for 15 to 18 feet in back of the machine, and the envelope does go a little bit off to the sides, and you'll get an audible warning if there's something detected in that area. And then operator configuration. This allows an operator to set up preferences that he has and then save those. If you want to do that, you need to go into detail in the operator's manual. Again, back to the main menu, diagnostics, as I mentioned earlier. If I select that, basically I can find out anything I want to know about the machine. For battery, engine, transmission, hydraulic, machine sensors. On the next page you can look at switch position, so pretty much anything you want to know about the machine. Temperatures, pressures, RPMs, position of the bucket, position of the loader arms is all available for either for the operator or the technician right here through the monitor. Payload scale, there are some Deere options that are available through here, but you have a separate one in this machine, so we won't talk about that. Security, since this is a keyless start, there are numbers located on the push button panel next to each switch that allows the contractor who stores this machine out on a job site at night to put in security codes that are required before the operator can start the machine. Exhaust filter. This machine does have a interim tier 4 EPA emission system on it, which has a diesel oxidation catalyst and diesel particulate filter. That filter will build up unburned fuel under normal operating conditions, and that has to be cleaned periodically. That will happen normally in normal machine operation. The machine is set up right now with auto cleaning enabled. You need to leave it that way. As you operate the machine, as that soot level starts to increase, it'll trigger a cleaning mode, which does not require you to change your operating in any way. You'll just see an indication down here in the light section of the monitor. It'll look like wind being blown through a filter, that cleaning is going on. Again, it's just an indication to you to let you know that it's happening. You don't have to change how you operate. If for some reason the machine were to idle for an extended period of time and not get hot enough to do the auto cleaning, it could require that a part cleaning be done. In that case, you'll get an alert. It'll take you go to this screen and the part cleaning, and the machine will walk you through that process. Again, this is outlined in great detail in the operator's manual. If you operate the machine normally, I don't expect that you'll have to do any part cleanings. The auto cleaning should take care of the requirements. Software delivery, that's for the technician if there's any software updates. That pretty much does it for the monitor. The push button panel, I'm going to go through these switches, but there's a cheat sheet located right here on the side in the cab that goes through each switch, and obviously it's all in the operator's manual as well. We talked about the start button. You push it a second time and hold it, the machine will start. The stop button obviously turns everything off. You got a beacon switch here, and your hazard light switch is here. You've got your boom down and hydraulic enable switch here. What this is, it's a red switch. Under normal operating conditions, when you turn the machine on, the light will be on, indicating that your hydraulic circuit is active. If you want to deactivate that, let's say a supervisor came up to talk to you, or somebody came up to talk to you at a job site, and you want to turn that hydraulic system off so you don't inadvertently operate the bucket, you can push this switch to the off position. The light will go off, and now this circuit will be dead. And then to activate it, you just turn it back on. The other purpose of this switch, and the reason that it's red, is that if you were to lose the engine on this machine with the boom up, unlike a normal hydraulic machine where you would just cycle and the boom would go down, you have to actually hold this switch down and then cycle the loader control for the boom to lower. Parking brake switch, obviously that has to be on and the machine to be in neutral before you start the machine. All Deere parking brakes are spring applied, hydraulically released, and so when you turn the machine off, that will be activated automatically. The next switch is your return to dig. So if you want the bucket to auto level after you dump a load, you need to make sure that turn that light on, and then that circuit's active. The next switch is your automatic transmission. There's 3 positions: off, which is manual mode, and then you got 1 light which is first through fourth, and 2 lights is second through fourth. So if you don't want to go into first, you can leave it in that mode. Spin control you don't have on this machine, and again, if you go up to the monitor, you push that button and it'll tell you right on the monitor that you don't have that mode. The next button is your brake clutch cutoff setting, and what this allows you to do is set ever increasing amounts of brake pressure required before the transmission will disconnect. If you're on level ground, you can have no lights on, and as soon as you go into the pile, you hit the brake, you'll get full power to your loader, which is fine when you're on level ground, but if you're on the salt pile, you're going to roll back when you do that. So you can set 1, 2, or 3 of ever increasing amounts of brake pressure. Basically in that third position, the brakes have to be almost fully engaged before the transmission will disconnect. These next 2 buttons, you've got return to dump